The nonstop changes around tariffs have raised anxieties for New Yorkers about their jobs, their investments, and their futures. Here's where things stood at the close of trading on Friday. The Dow jumped 600 points to close out a turbulent week. But it's not just about the stock market. In a headline this week, MarketWatch reporter Vanessa Wong says people are more worried about their jobs now than they were during the pandemic. She says months of economic uncertainty led worker confidence to crater even before Trump's tariffs tanked financial markets. And Vanessa is with us here this morning. Great to have you with us. We do appreciate it. So you take those months of uncertainty before the tariffs, and now you have the tariffs. So those two combined, how dangerous of a combination is that?
Workers are understandably very concerned about their financial and job security right now. In a new report released by Glassdoor, they were reporting worse sentiment as of March than they were during the pandemic. So in other words, when asked about their employer's 6-month outlook, they were more negative about it in March than they were during the peak of COVID when everything was extremely uncertain.
My community worrying about payrolls and social services.
Are extremely volatile right now. We're not really sure what's going to happen with the president's tariff policies. There's a lot of changes. There's the 90-day pause right now. There are exclusions most recently on things like phones and computers from China, but there's still a lot of uncertainty, and I think people don't really understand what that's going to mean for both their companies and their jobs.
So how are some people responding to that uncertainty?
People are there's a variety of ways that people are responding based mainly on what resources they have. In other words, whether they are lower middle income or higher income. So in other surveys, lower and middle income consumers were more likely to be cutting back on purchases, everyday expenses, discretionary spending, things like eating out, shopping, etc. Middle income consumers specifically were the most likely to be cutting back, and that's probably because they have a little bit more discretionary budget than a low-income consumer would. Right. Meanwhile, high-income consumers were more likely to be moving forward some of their big purchases. For example, I interviewed folks who were buying cars before the expected tariff impact so that they could try to save a little bit of money that way. There were also a lot of low-income consumers who said that they were not planning to change anything about their consumption habits, and the researchers were assuming that this was because they didn't have much room in their budget at all to make any changes. So for lower-income consumers, a very large share of their budget just goes towards necessities, housing, food, utilities, and these are things that are hard to change and get when
us low income comers gotta just watch.
Which workers are more vulnerable
and eat
right
popcorn.
now? Which sectors of the economy are more vulnerable, would you say?
Yeah, so I spoke to economists about this. Honestly, it felt a little bit like deja vu from the Great Recession, but the jobs that are often at greatest risk during a recession are in cyclical industries like manufacturing, construction, also low-wage jobs, and these are jobs that are disproportionately held by women and people of color, and also young workers. The last people hired in are often the first people let go. So some of the job experts and economists I was speaking to were also saying that because the benefits of leaving your job right now aren't as as profitable as they were during the earlier parts of the pandemic when people were job hopping and the raises that you get were really high. Right now, someone who leaves their job is barely making more than someone who stays in their job. In other words, the raise isn't that big. So that if you're worried about job security, you might be better off staying in your company, assuming that's a stable role, where you might have a little bit more seniority, better relationships, etc.
Yeah. And Vanessa, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just about to say that the health industry has been stable. Typically, government jobs are very stable, but obviously that's been a different story over the last few months as DOGE has tried to reduce government spending.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll final moments here, Vanessa. So we've heard so much about price increases, right, with these tariffs. So when do you think we'll start seeing that? And which services and goods will see that more than others? And will there be artificial increases, just people raising prices anyway, whether they're impacted or not?
This is the question that I think every consumer wants to know right now. I go to my grocery store every single day and like check the price of milk, you know. We don't know. It's really a moving target. Again, there's the 90-day pause right now, things like phones and computers. But I think that one consumer behavior that is changing is that people are looking more to the secondhand market for whatever, you know, clothing, for technology even, to see what might be available that's more within their budget. Because the other thing that a lot of people are keeping an eye on right now is how big their emergency savings are. I've been speaking to financial planners for months now who have been saying that in this job market, you do need a bigger financial cushion in case of job loss. It's taking on average about 5+ months to find a new job, for unemployed people to find a new job. So they were recommending 6 months earlier this year, back in January. Some are now recommending a emergency savings fund as big as 12 months of your necessary expenses, depending on how volatile your industry is and how easy it might be for you to find a job that pays more or less what you're making now in case of job loss. So in that environment, even if you know you're not sure how your spending might be impacted by tariffs, people are looking for ways to cut back on spending just to give themselves a little bit more of a cushion during this unstable and unpredictable time.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Vanessa, we really appreciate your time and your information this morning. Vanessa Wong from MarketWatch. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.